Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. You know we love you in Africa, the Big C tribe, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, on a beautiful January the 3rd, 2019, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
I don't know where the hell you living talking about beautiful, man. It's been raining here all day.
California.
Okay, you must be California.
California love, baby.
It's like I got the fishing boat tied to the porch and ready to go at any moment.
That's why they say they wish they could all be California girls. California love. I think there's a song by some good old boys back in the day. It's all fair in love and war. I tell you, so much great in the sports universe. Really happy about this great New Year 2019. Big C already being invited to do some interviews for some movie stars in Northern California for a motion picture coming out. Just got that information just about an hour ago that Big C Sports, not only the number one sports show in the universe, Big C Sports may also be interviewing some of the top Hollywood actors in the universe as well. So a lot of good things happening on the scene for Big C Sports. But I do want to say, as far as sports, we have just a couple more days, Big C, for college football, the national championship. And Big C, they're expecting rain. No, tell me no, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, we're going to ship it out there to you. I mean, we've had enough of it out here to hold us for this month of January. So, I mean, as much as I hear that California is always in a drought restriction, Charlton, maybe you guys could use some extra liquor. But maybe this will also serve, Charlton, that, maybe that game needs to be more centralized.
Yeah.
There's enough great dome stadiums here in the United States, Charlton, to always have an unencumbered national championship game. You look at that beautiful facility in Texas. They got two of them.
Yeah.
One in Houston, one in Dallas. You have the great stadium in New Orleans, Charlton. There's no reason to put the national championship game in peril, Charlton, playing it outdoors. Also in Atlanta, where they have that new stadium.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta, I don't know if they tore down the old Georgia Dome, but that was just 20 years old, and they called that antiquated. So if a 20-year-old dome is antiquated, then that means they got some money down there in the dirty South. Why they call it dirty South? It's such a beautiful place, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it should be clean with all the rain that they're having down on the East Coast, Charlton. Everything out there should be washed away.
Yeah.
But, you think about these games that are coming up, Charlton, with the national championship game on Monday and the first round of playoff games in the NFL starting on Saturday.
Yeah.
It's just a great weekend of college and professional football once again.
Yeah, it's a great weekend. As we always talk about, I hear a lot of young people, and we know that they still having this government shutdown. And I do want to say this segment sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. We talk about how we still have this government shutdown, and if people should stop complaining so much and just vote and do what we can to teach our kids order in society, and that goes all the way up to the White House as well, Big C. It's a similar moment. We talk about the national championship game. I know mainstream focused on that. We're also talking about the NFL playoffs. That's all important. But you and I talk so much, Big C, about being more than just sports. I just want to say this shift of power that's happening today in the United States of America. The mainstream get ready for the playoffs. We have the 116th Congress being sworn in today, the most racially and ethnically diverse in the history of this country. And if it was not for Big C Sports, many sports people would not even know about it, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it just shows the social consciousness and awareness of the citizens of the United States, Charlton, that they understand to make a social and conscious change is that they got to get off the couch and go out there to the polling stations, Charlton.
Yeah.
And they did that in mass this year, Charlton. When you think about the new House being sworn in today, Charlton, the most diverse House in the history of the U.S. politics, Charlton, today is that we have over 100 women now serving in Congress. And you think about the shift of tide, Charlton. That when the Constitution was written, women had no rights whatsoever.
None.
But when you talk about this wave of women, Charlton, in this Me Too movement. This is part of that. Me Too, they can be involved in this scenario. And you think about it, Charlton, in 1989, there were 13 female congressmen in the United States. There were 16 Democratic congresswomen. Today, Charlton, there were 89 Democratic congresswomen and still only 13 Republicans. That shows how society has swayed, Charlton. That when you look from the Democratic part of our society, Charlton, that women are more activists as far as being concerned about their rights and their family rights as this world continues to move on.
I think that's so important, especially we all come from a woman, and see, mainstream is new about this Me Too movement, Big C, but as many black women can tell you, they were the ones who were keeping families together because black men weren't allowed to get a lot of opportunities. And I just want that to be known, because today we have 56 African-American members, 42 Hispanic Latino members. There's 10 what they call lesbian, the LGBT community. They're also the first black woman from Massachusetts. That's incredible. And the first 2 Native American women sworn into Congress. I say that because in a sports show, there are more, think about this, Big C, black men dominate sports, okay? That's a fact, especially on the professional level when it comes to NFL, NBA, even Division I college football and basketball. But would you believe that there are more black members of the Congress than there are black head coaches in a sport we dominate, Big C? People say sports and politics don't mix. Black America's been mixing it ever since we got the opportunity, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, is about being progressive, seizing the opportunity. And I'm so proud of our new political leaders, Charlton, in this country. And when you talked about the mass diversity, we had a Muslim, senator from Minnesota.
That's right.
We've had a Israeli senator, Charlton, that was elected. The youngest congresswoman elected out of New York, Charlton, she was 24 years old. So it shows that how the tide of society is changing, Charlton. That this society has been run by old white men forever, Charlton. And now that the people are seeing that the diversity in society as well as in our politics, Charlton, is that you have to elect people, Charlton, who understand things the way that you do. That look forward, that are looking after your children's future, Charlton. Not looking into a retirement age, as most of those senators should be gone, and Congressman Charlton should be gone. Because how can a 70-year-old man, 70-plus-year-old man, Charlton, tell 24 and 25-year-olds how society should be for them?
That's true.
Society has changed, Charlton. When they were that age, Charlton, we didn't have computers. And most of them still can't operate a computer professionally, Charlton. They're secretaries. They have aides that handle all that for them. So you need people who are modernized, Charlton, that are in our political realm, that understand where the trends are, Charlton. What the needs of American society is today, not 50 years ago, Charlton.
Well, I believe that, and it's such a seminal moment in our country. Like we always say, don't be a sycophant. Don't just be a dumb jock. I look at some of the things, and people think, well, if you're gonna have change, you can't be a part of it. Yes, you can. You can't be silent. This is for all the mainstream sports shows out there that think our society is dumb. Well, we've been dumbing down our society, especially, I'm really making a cry out to the young African-American boys and women, but women for the most part have their act together more because they're not offered a $100 million contract for not getting an education, just shooting basketball and shutting up and dribbling. They've been getting themselves in the business world. This thing just came to my attention this morning, Big C. I know many professional basketball players. I know many sports leagues around California, and there are programs that will have young men telling young kids, especially young black boys, that the way to get to college is to play sports. That's not true. You got to have the right GPA. You could be the best basketball player in the universe. If you don't have the right GPA, you're not getting in, Big C. And we know there's some schools that do shenanigans for you. But I really want to just say this point before we cover some sports, because if Big C Sports doesn't say it, then they're not going to hear it. Quit thinking that you got to dribble 500 dribbles a day. That's what a lot of athletes will tell you as a young boy to get to college. You got to do 500 jump shots a day. You got to do 500 push-ups throughout the day. You got to do 500 whatever throughout the day. If you're dumb, you're not getting in. How about read 500 words a day, Big C? How about learn some things that take 500 minutes? Whatever it is. Just please, I don't see them telling that to the mainstream community to shut up and dribble 500 times a day. They're only primarily telling that to young black boys. Now, if you're a parent and you're living vicariously through your child, we just told you, this has been the biggest shift in the history of the United States in Congress. You have people of color that are dominating Congress more than we do the athletic fields. And we're trying to get a job. The Rooney Rule, garbage. The Rooney Rule is garbage. Big C, what can black coaches and people who want to get into sports learn about what just Congress just did as opposed to needing the Rooney Rule? Stop working for people who don't give you the opportunity. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's about stumping in the right way. And when we look at our political landscape now in America, Charlton, we had young people, middle-aged people, Charlton, that saw there was a need for change in our society, that they could no longer sit around and be passive about what was altering their lives.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to look at even from the sports realm. And when you talked about shooting the jump shots and doing the push-ups, Charlton,
yeah,
what you need to be worrying about as a young potential college student, Charlton, is your SAT score.
Yep.
That's where you need to be putting your emphasis on.
Amen to that.
That's going to let you know which universities you qualify for, Charlton.
Yeah.
And then so these are the things that they don't tell kids enough. When you sit there talking about you got to shoot the 500 free throws, Charlton.
Right.
You got to. I think the number one thing when they talk about the 500 free throws, there's not 500 players in the NBA, I don't believe, or maybe just that many. 700 players in the NBA.
Yeah.
700.
Yeah.
So what are your opportunities potentially getting on one of those teams? Let's be realistic about that.
Yeah.
You know, but to be elected as a politician, you are more likely as an African American in the United States to be elected as a politician than you are to become a professional athlete.
Isn't that something? And they don't require you to do push-ups, last I understand, because POTUS wouldn't have made it if that was the case, Big C. We know that's the case. But I gotta, again, just congratulations, especially to young African Americans. I got people to understand. Don't fall for the hype that you can only make it through sports. You've been hoodwinked, you've been lied to. And don't think that in order to be on the show, you got to act dumb. We just told you that Congress has the biggest shift in the history of this country, and people of color are making that move, Big C. We talk about the West Coast, and I said it might rain. Well, even before this forecast, it may rain, it may be light showers. Is college football in trouble because of the logistics? And we talked about it before. The championship game is not even sold out yet in Santa Clara. That's beautiful Santa Clara, San Francisco, down by the home of the 49ers. If they can't, we just said they didn't even sell out more than 20,000 fans for the Pac-12 championship game. That was Washington, the Rose Bowl participant, and also Utah. They also had Oregon and Michigan State, must have had about 20, 25,000. It holds about 70,000. It would be anathema for college football to not have a sold-out national championship game. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think it's not in trouble as far as college football because those checks that, Alabama and Clemson are going to get,
yeah,
they're going to cash. They're not going to bounce. They're going to go.
They're going to cash, okay.
Playing in this national championship game.
Yeah.
But, you have to look at the game regionally. There's not a dog in the fight on the West Coast. You think about it. The Pac-12 did not even make the tournament, Charlton.
No.
They were omitted. For the past 2 years, the Pac-12 has not had a team go into this carousel, Charlton, for the potential national championship.
No.
And then, you have the game in Santa Clara. So what West Coast ties do you have to the game, Charlton? Maybe a couple players on Alabama that are from the West Coast.
Yeah.
But when you think about the game that was last year in Atlanta,
yeah,
they had tickets, Charlton, going for $1,700.
Wow.
To get into that game.
Wow.
You can buy a ticket today for the game in Santa Clara for $150.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if people understand where Santa Clara is from San Francisco. It's about an hour drive from the airport.
Hour drive south, yep. Yep.
So you're not right in that geographical area, Charlton. You still have to travel. You have to leave out of San Francisco or out of Oakland to get to Santa Clara.
Yeah.
And then the price of housing out there, Charlton, in hotels is not cheap.
No.
You're talking Silicon Valley, so they're raising the price.
Yeah.
When you think about that game that was in Atlanta last year, Charlton, you had Georgia playing and you had Alabama.
Yeah.
It was about 3-hour drive between the universities. Atlanta sit right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So, you could load up that day, Charlton. You could put everybody in the RV, come on down. But, you're thinking about getting out to California.
Yeah.
You can't take your RV to the game.
No.
And so that's big in Southern football. When you go to tailgating, Charlton,
yes,
it's like an RV salesman being out there. and so now you're looking at everybody going out to the West Coast.
Yeah.
They're not familiar with that lifestyle, Charlton. Taking all those Southerners out there, and thinking they're supposed to go to Disneyland. And so now they all messed up. There's nobody on the West Coast, Charlton, that's realistically interested in this game, because how many West Coast teams are following Alabama and Clemson, per se?
That's true.
So the NCAA is getting this all wrong. If they're going to do this tournament, and this is also anathema, Charlton, talking about putting more than 4 teams in.
I agree.
This is a point to prove you don't put more than 4 teams in. Because where's the interest and where's all the travel going to come from, Charlton?
Yeah.
We've gotten to this game. If it's not in the right logistical place, Charlton, it is not a hot commodity. So these games, as far as the NCAA is concerned, Charlton, these games either need to be in Houston, Dallas, New Orleans, Atlanta, the hotbeds of college football, Charlton, and you have these dome stadiums. And if it is on the West Coast, what's wrong with Glendale, Arizona, Charlton? You got this gorgeous stadium out there in the desert that's domed. It's always going to be perfect weather. You can't take the chances of putting a national championship game, Charlton, in inclement weather.
That's Big C. That just makes too much sense. What you just said. You talked about Silicon Valley. I think it's the richest county, or it's the richest area in California and Santa Clara County. It takes $200,000 median income to afford a 2-bedroom home, actually a 2-bedroom apartment in San Francisco. $200,000 to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in San Francisco. That means you might have 4 or 5 people in there, because $200,000 is a lot for one person to make, even if you're a married couple. And that's for 2 bedrooms. You can't do much with 2 bedrooms, Big C. But that's part of living in the Bay Area region with all that water. It's a gorgeous place, but it's a high income place. Also, some news that made some Bay Area news. You have one of the greatest, I think, and that's because I did a game back in 1996 down at Stafford Stadium. I was a spotter for Greg Papa for a TV broadcast, but he was doing Stafford football. He's later gone on to do the Raiders play-by-play broadcast, also some Golden State Warriors, and a lot of other sports teams in Northern California, even some high school broadcasts. Big C did high school as well. Now, he just became the new San Francisco 49ers play-by-play announcer, replacing Ted Robinson, who's also done, many golf events and also tennis events, as well as some football and some basketball in the Bay Area. Now, I thought Greg Papa was one of the best in the business, not just recently, but nationwide. And Davis let him go when Gruden came on, and they got Brent Musburger, who I don't think is as good, especially on radio, just not. Big C, when you look at the Raiders organization, not only have they gotten rid of some top athletes, Greg Papa's a Hall of Fame broadcaster. They even got rid of him, and he's white. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you look at this organization, you think about the young Mark Davis. Well, he's not that young, Charlton.
Not anymore.
But he's young mentally when it comes to business of the NFL.
Yeah.
And loyalty has a long ways to go in sports, Charlton. It will get you favoritism.
Yeah.
But when you think about the moves that the Raiders organization has made, Charlton, I guess he wants to dismantle everything that his father created. In his legacy.
Yeah.
This franchise is not run like the Rooney franchise, Charlton, with the Pittsburgh Steelers, or even the Mara franchise, Charlton, with the New York Giants, where it's been a family legacy to run the organizations with class, Charlton.
Yeah.
Al Davis was synonymous with the AFL and NFL, Charlton. He is the man who created the merger of the 2 leagues. He was the original commissioner of the AFL, Charlton.
Yeah.
He was so integral in everything that the NFL did for decades.
Yeah.
And now that his son has come along, he's made that organization the laughing stock of the league, Charlton.
Yeah.
It's almost an embarrassment of how he's running the league. But when you have a team, the owners can't vote you out, Charlton.
Right.
He inherited something. And it's like a lot of rich kids, Charlton. You inherit something that you don't work for.
Yeah.
And you really don't know how to appreciate it.
Yep. And I think that's one thing that Davis, whether people liked him or not, I met Al Davis, and he had this tough guy named Al Lucasell next to him at the Coliseum he was a small guy, but he had a big aura around him. I guess you can have an aura when you have a lot of bodyguards around you, Big C, even when you're about 5'6". But he gave men opportunity and women opportunity. I mean, Amy Trask worked with a regular organization as one of the first ladies with a high status symbol in the NFL. So he did a lot of things to open doors for people. But I gotta also mention something about the NFL. And I'm kind of torn by it, Big C, but I know you're more of a realistic person than I am. I believe in sometimes give people the benefit of the doubt. You just like the facts all the time, but I understand. The NFL announced a partnership with Caesars Entertainment. They will make gaming, the gaming giant, the first ever official casino sponsor of the NFL. Now maybe I'm a little bit naive, Big C, because I think casinos gotta employ people too. But what's the motivation for having a casino sponsor the NFL when you don't want people betting on the game? After a fumble, that pass was a little too high. Why did he drop the football, wide right on the kick? Maybe that's worth a lot more money by missing it than you get in your contract. That make any sense, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, where are the Raiders going in 2 years?
Oh, there it is. I thought you spotted me.
Las Vegas, okay?
Yeah.
So this facilitates that, Charlton. This just solidifies what's going on with the NFL.
Yeah.
Is that the NFL is trying to get a head start on what they know has always been going on, okay?
Wow.
Gambling has always been a part of sports, Charlton.
Yeah.
Charlton, collegiate and professional.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of what's not been told publicly.
Yeah.
You can look at plays on a field, Charlton, of a player dropping a ball, fumbling a ball.
Yep.
Officials blowing calls, Charlton.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me that people have not been, persuaded? I guess it would be the word, or attempted over the years, Charlton.
Yeah.
And what's that old analogy? Turn a blind eye.
Turn a blind eye, yeah.
I mean, the NFL, Charlton, no longer wants to turn a blind eye.
No, they're not.
They're going to become part of what's been occurring for decades, Charlton.
Yeah.
Is that if they partner up with a legal gambling organization, Charlton, then it all looks good from now on. As we see some of this instant replay that, inconclusive.
Yep.
The ruling on the field stands, Charlton.
Yeah.
The betting line, it's like a game. The Rose Bowl just the other day.
Yeah.
Okay? The line on the game was, what, I believe 5.5?
5.5, I think so, yeah.
Washington was down by, what, at halftime? 21 points?
21 points, yep.
21 points. What was the final score in the game, Charlton?
I think it was
5 points?
Yeah, 5 points.
5 points.
Yeah.
A half a point. Think about that.
Yeah.
That's half point. Nobody, 4 field goals late in the game, Ohio State to come to spread.
Yep.
Urban Meyer's last game, swan song.
Yeah.
Get out of there comfortably.
Get out of there comfortably, yeah. Financially. Yeah.
So when you look at this thing with the NFL partnering up, I mean, it was inevitable once the Supreme Court passed the law, Charlton, that sports betting would be legal in all states across the country.
Yep.
Look how many states that the NFL is in, Charlton. We talked about it in a show about a month or so ago, Charlton, when we talked about sports betting in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
In Pennsylvania, rather. That, they expected sports betting in Pennsylvania to be $12 billion.
Yeah.
Las Vegas was only $4.8 billion.
Wow.
So when you look at that tri-state area, Charlton, all funneling into Pennsylvania, producing $12 billion in revenue in sports betting.
Wow.
Why would the NFL say, no, we don't want any of that?
Yeah.
The NFL stands to make, Charlton, I believe, $55 million in the first year.
Wow.
Off of this partnership with Caesars.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
$55 million they're going to pay them the first year. It's going to only go up year after year.
Oh, yeah.
So why would an owner leave that kind of money on the table, Charlton? And that money will be doled up between the owners.
Yeah. Yep, that reminds me of the movie, the great Will Smith. I still think he stole your dog because he was in the movie I Am Legend. It looked like your dog. He just gave us, I guess they changed the hair color or something, but it looked like your dog. And Margaret Robbie. It was called Focus. And watch the movie again. I really enjoyed it because I like sports so much. And I kept looking at the signs. I believe in signs. They kept having certain numbers. And people who are naive, like I used to be until I started talking to you more, people say, well, how could the game be fixed? It doesn't make any sense. Somebody would tell. Somebody got to be in on it. I think sometimes when you have so much money, you don't care what the little guy thinks, Big C. You don't care what the Joe Blow that works 9 to 5. You don't care what he thinks. He doesn't have a private jet. He's not getting part of that $55 million NFL.
Well, Charlton, think about this. Every time there's a replay, where do they go to?
That booth, I guess.
The booth.
Allegedly.
Somebody has to tell them what call to make, don't they?
Yeah, I guess.
Even though 90% of the time the viewing audience sees the play and gets it accurate.
Yeah.
90% of the time the viewing audience sees the play and gets it accurate live and within the first replay, Charlton.
Yeah, that's funny.
When it takes 2 minutes for a referee to come back with a decision that you've seen within 10 seconds what was accurate, and they're not sure about it.
Yep.
And they'll come back, well, the decision on the field stands.
Yeah.
You know, the call is inconclusive.
Yep.
You know, there's not enough evidence to overturn the call, or the call is overturned.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't take 2 minutes under the hood, Charlton.
No.
And think about it. It used to be under the hood.
Yeah.
It was a big screen that they look at.
Yeah.
Now they look at a little handheld tablet.
Yeah.
And, I mean, half these referees are blind. If you can't see it with a full-size man there, Charlton, how you going to see it on an 8-inch screen?
Especially that big
I got a screen bigger than that in my car.
Yeah. I hope it's legal, Big C, the one you got in the Escalade. But if you can't see if something's clear on that TV they have, what's it called, Jerry Jones?
And the Jerry Jones one, that screen is 120 feet long.
Yeah. If you can't see in that high definition, what's a little handheld pilot, Palm Pilot tablet going to show you? My father used to always say, develop your mind to its highest extent, and don't let people fool you. Read things for yourself. Read it for yourself. That's how you figure things out. But on a serious note too, Big C, I think about UCLA just got rid of their coach yesterday for basketball. You think about the great UCLA. They fired Steve Alford. They fired Alford, who played at Indiana under the great Bobby Knight. They fired him, and also their football coach within the last 12 months of a great program. Moore, he's now doing TV work, so that means he'll get a job in the NFL next from doing TV to NFL. But one of the best universities academically in California, and maybe in the whole country, and one of the best athletic programs as far as their overall athletic program, they've gotten it so wrong. They've gotten rid of 2 coaches that are big name coaches in the last year. Now I want to bring up a point because you just talked about that betting thing that the NFL signed up with Caesars. It was last year that UCLA went over to China, sponsored by Alibaba, one of the largest financial conglomerates in the world, Big C, and some boys that did not know that you got to pay for things, especially when you're in a foreign country, is called theft. Now, those kids lost their scholarships because they took something illegally, unlike the illegal paper bags that are being handed back and forth to some of these people that we don't look at twice. We say, now, this is just my own opinion. A lot of sports people said, you just brought up the Rose Bowl. Why did Peterson not go for it? Less than 4 minutes to play. They were down double digits, and they were outscoring Ohio State in the fourth. But they punted the ball away. Even Kirk Herbstreit said, well, I don't know why he did that. You just brought up the casino people. There's a lot of people making money for doing what public doesn't understand. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, like I said, there was a 5.5-point spread on the game.
Yeah.
The game ended up with a 5-point spread.
I told you I was slower than you, okay?
There was a whole lot of people that were tense, okay? But even as a player, Charlton, I always wondered, how did they come up with the half point? Because I'm still searching around. I played the game, I coached the game, I broadcast the game, Charlton. And I'm still looking for that half-point score in a sporting event, Charlton.
Yeah.
I just haven't found it yet. In all of my old years, I still haven't found a half point on the scoreboard.
Yeah. I think if you take $1 and tear it in half, they don't take it at the bank. For some reason, they say, no, you got to have the whole thing, Big C. But yeah, that's the gaming part of the business. And it's all part of life. I just realized, though, those kids at UCLA, they stole something. But the NCAA been stealing money for years. They just do it on TV, broad daylight. They decorate a stadium, and they put nice TV stations in there and cameras, and they show you some of the smoke and mirrors. And they put hundreds of millions of dollars in their pockets. Well, young kids, I mean, their fault, don't steal anyway. But when they tried to do what the NCAA does, they lost a scholarship and were kicked from the team, and UCLA had a downfall over that, and they're blaming the coach. It wasn't his fault. He didn't steal the stuff. But they were all part of that free labor for no pay, and I just think it's all coming to, it's a Pandora's box when you say, let's get people who back gaming to sponsor our sports, but we don't want the athletes doing it. I think that's a bad thing. I want to say sports is a billion-dollar industry. Boys and girls sports is the foundation of this billion-dollar industry. For every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports, whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league. When you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you. So Big C, last thing on this gaming thing. Remember when one of the greatest coaches, I think ever, at any level, the late Jerry Tarkanian. At UNLV, they run the Rebels, but he was at Long Beach State before that, and after UNLV, he went to Fresno State. But he took a lot of flack because sometimes guys at UNLV showed up with no shoes on their feet, but they drove around on cars that had 4 tires, and they were new tires. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, when you think about Tark's involvement at UNLV, Charlton, and you know, I think one of the things that, you know, really was his demise, that his players were known to be hanging out with known bettors and casino owners.
You mean the people who sponsor the league now?
and ended up in the newspaper, you know, in the hot tubs with them.
Yeah.
So, you know, but, you know, being there in Las Vegas, Charlton,
yeah.
I mean, it would be hard to avoid that temptation.
Yeah.
You know, when those college players, and we know that college players live on minimal income, not supposed to receive benefits beyond the scholarship. If they do, then they become ineligible. So when we think about the days of Jerry Tarkanian and the running Rebels at UNLV, Charlton, and when he left there, he ended up with the San Antonio Spurs for a couple years prior to going to Fresno State.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is why the NFL is trying to get this jump start in you know, partnering up with Caesars, because they know that once the Raiders go into Las Vegas, Charlton, everybody on their schedule is going to be in Las Vegas, okay?
Yeah.
You're going to have all the West Coast teams, Charlton. You're going to have Denver. You're going to have the Chargers, Charlton. You're going to have the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Those teams are going to be there every year, Charlton, at least once a year.
Yeah.
Plus the other 4 teams that the Raiders will get to come in there and play them in that stadium. So there's going to be people, Charlton, that are going to be tempted. Those players generally, Charlton, are going to stay in a casino.
Yeah.
Okay? The NFL is partnered up with Caesars, so you know where they're going to be playing.
Yeah.
They're going to be staying in Caesars. And so if Caesars is going to be getting that money, they want to have some influence on it also.
You think? Told you, I'm not as bright as you, but now sometimes I know I'm a knucklehead because I know I am. That's why I read so much so I can get out of that. But because I grew up in Northern California thinking, why are the Raiders leaving? They have fans that have been so loyal. You've got people that earned a job and worked around the Coliseum. I think even MC Hammer used to sell some type of whatever he was selling in the Coliseum. You know, game.
He was a bat boy for the Oakland A's and Charlie Finley.
Yeah, I see. You know all that stuff, Big C. Now, you can't have that anymore. Those kids over in the East Bay that used to look for opportunities with the Raiders, that's gone. And if you look at Oakland as being gentrified now, it's mostly people coming in from the Pacific that are coming into Oakland. Used to be predominantly African American or halfway African American city. Now the demographics are changing. In the next 30 years, you probably won't see many African Americans at all because a lot of those jobs, those blue collar jobs, are gone. And it's being, you know, this EB-5 money is coming in now from Pacific Realm, and so that's changing. But it's the money, and whenever there's somebody says to a kid, don't dare take money, the scandals that happen, whether it's in Louisville or whether it's, you know, Kentucky or any other school that's ever been accused of that, Big C, I think it's such hypocrisy for the NFL to say, we're going to criticize all these young boys, and college does it too, but then the league they all want to play for gets the same backing that was reaching out to some of these kids, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I still have some change left from the money that I got while I was in college.
You still do?
I'm holding on to it as a memento, you know, just in case I have to use it, you know, against somebody.
Right.
But, you know, these young men, Charlton, that are going to be going into Vegas, they're going to be influenced by a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
I mean, they see this lifestyle during the off season, but now as players going in a day or two before a game, Charlton,
yeah,
think about the influence that you're going to have. And you're going to be right there on a Caesars property when you get to Las Vegas. That's the reason why the partnership with the NFL.
Yeah.
You know, these teams are going to get these rooms for free.
Yep.
These players are not going to sit in the room, Charlton. They're not going to do that. You're going to go down and utilize the amenities of the properties that are there.
Yeah.
You're going to sit down at the tables, Charlton. You're going to engage. And, you know, you get into a situation where you may not want to. And
yeah.
So we can relieve that debt from you. You know, we can take that off your hands. All you got to do is make this happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can have conversations in many kind of ways, Charlton, with people. It's always gone on with young athletes.
Yeah.
That everybody doesn't have the Matt Ryan contract.
Yeah.
The kid in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers contract.
Yeah.
They don't have the Matthew Stafford contract.
Yeah.
They don't have your cousin's contract in Minnesota.
You're not my cousin.
You know, these contracts are not amongst all the players. There's a lot of players in the NFL making less than $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
Most of the rosters, Charlton, are making less than $500,000 a year. Those guys that are staples on the sideline, Charlton, they're not the $1 million players, okay?
Yeah.
They keep those on the field participating. So there's going to be players, Charlton, that have an opportunity to make an extra $100,000, $200,000, Charlton, on a trip to Vegas.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to turn that down because you're in the business of making money.
Yep.
That's what athletes are. They are in the business of making money. So if you think that these games won't be influenced by the NFL going to Vegas, Charlton,
yeah,
don't turn on your TV.
Well, that's very true. Just follow Big C Sports instead. I want to bring something up too, Big C, that I just thought about it talking to you. You ever notice how some of the top paid quarterbacks in this league that get the $100 million contracts, they're not making the playoffs? They don't have winning seasons, but the NFL pumps these guys that you got to have these eugenic quarterbacks, primarily Caucasian, and they want to say that these guys can win Super Bowls on their own, and if they don't win, then it's obviously the coach's fault or the coordinator's fault. Now, you think, where does all this money come from? You ever notice that? It makes you go home, like the great Arsenio Hall used to say. How does a guy make a $155 million contract and his team can't make the playoffs? How's a guy sign $187 million and his team can't make the playoffs? Because the betting public puts their money behind these guys. And how does Vegas get their money back, BC?
Well, Charlton, you're so accurate on that. You know, these guys have a stake. They got a dog in the fight, as you want to say. Okay?
Yeah.
You're sitting there and you're making all of this money, Charlton, and everybody is betting on you because of the money that you make.
Yep.
So Vegas knows which way to set the odds against you.
Yeah.
You know, and so they're making money off of you losing.
Yeah.
Is what they're doing.
Well, that is
the greatest out there, Charlton.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't you do this? If you sign these guaranteed contracts,
yeah,
that means that you're guaranteeing that organization victories, Charlton, and
yeah,
they're not doing that.
Yep.
You think about the 6 highest paid quarterbacks, as you stated, Charlton, are not in the playoffs.
Wow.
They didn't have winning records to make the playoffs.
Nope.
Why is that, Charlton?
Yeah.
But they got paid.
Yep.
And if they got paid, somebody else got paid off of them, Charlton.
You sure the money did just come out of the tooth fairy under the pillow for losing a game or something, Big C? I mean...
Well, you know, it's the difference between a quarter and $2 million, Charlton.
Yeah. That's a nice tooth fairy to have, Big C. I love the sports business. I just love how Big C Sports does it because we just spit the truth. And if what the great Jack say, you can't handle the truth. Yeah, you can handle the truth. It's all out there. Just look for it yourself. Basically, the NFL's the 6 highest paid quarterback will be sitting at home during the playoffs. There'll be 6 quarterbacks starting the playoffs game that are under 25 years of age. Baltimore, you have Jackson in Baltimore. You have Watson in Houston. You have Prescott in Dallas, Trubisky in Chicago, Goff in Los Angeles, and Mahomes in Kansas City. We just talked about big money. Oftentimes it's tied to older name guys. But why the young guys in the playoffs, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they're hungry, they're enthusiastic. And you think about those 6 quarterbacks that you named, Charlton?
Yeah.
Combined, they don't make as much money as Aaron Rodgers.
Nope.
You think about that. Their 6 contracts combined do not equal Aaron Rodgers' single contract in the NFL.
Google it.
But this is the face of the NFL, Charlton, as it's coming. The young quarterbacks that are active in college, they're being active in the NFL. They're creating scenarios that make their teams exciting, Charlton. They're able to move around in that offensive scheme, Charlton.
Yeah.
By times for those plays to develop. when you think about those highest priced quarterbacks in the NFL, Charlton, all of them except for Aaron Rodgers are non-mobile quarterbacks. They're strict pocket passers sitting in the pocket. They're vulnerable to great defensive rushers, Charlton.
Yeah.
Those young quarterbacks that you named, especially Lamar Jackson, who's only 21 years old, Charlton, who has the best record of all the quarterbacks in the playoffs. He only has one loss in his NFL career. People say, well, he's only played 7 games.
Yeah.
Well, all those other quarterbacks that you named didn't win 7 games, Charlton.
Yeah, no, that's true, Big C. And that's the thing that I love about just telling it like it is. And I mean, Walter Cronkite, he talked about that, tell it like it is. And I think the overall moral of why I say Big C Sports should win it, but it's a pound of white Americans, white media people, so we won't get it, but we earned it, okay? We earned it because we're the most honest sports show in the universe, and we know that's true. I love the fact that what you just said about Jackson, he was the main guy that mainstream said should play defensive back or wide receiver, and you better believe, I even heard Northern California Spurs talk saying, you know, I really hope that Baltimore doesn't win it because it'd be a shame not to see Phillip Rivers win. No, they don't want to see a black guy that mainstream media said wasn't qualified. What it take to be qualified to be NFL quarterback? Because you got to win, maybe even win a Heisman Trophy in college. Basically, your thoughts?
Well, you know, I've heard so much talk about, well, his throwing motion is not that good.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, he's completing 60+% of his passes, Charles.
Yeah.
You got quarterbacks that throwing motion is all supposed to be this great.
Yeah.
But when you were talking about your cousin and a few other guys in the final game of the season, they weren't passing for 200 yards.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're out there making guaranteed money, you know, $100 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
And they're not passing for 200 yards in a game.
No, they're not.
You know, the thing about football players, Charlton, even back in the day when I played, we were motivated by a guy who moved the needle on offense.
Yeah.
You know, there's certain quarterbacks that have that intangible that just make you play harder.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson has done that with the Baltimore Ravens. When you look at Joe Flacco, I mean, he was like a glass of cold water, Charlie.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't move the needle. He just said, gosh, you know, is there ice in there? Is it just frozen?
Yeah.
You know, that was Joe Flacco. You know, you look at Lamar Jackson, Charlton, it's like a kid eating cotton candy all day.
Yeah.
You know, he's just bouncing off the wall.
Yeah.
And that's what Lamar Jackson has done for this team. He's rejuvenated the Baltimore Ravens and made them young, Charlton, like him.
Yeah.
The defensive players, the rest of the offense, Charlton. They said, we got to keep up with this guy.
Yeah.
That's what he's brought to the plate.
Yeah.
And that's what you look for in an NFL quarterback. I mean, they even talk about that. You look at Cleveland, you look at what Baker Mayfield did in Cleveland, Charlton. His enthusiasm helped uplift that offense in Cleveland.
Yeah.
It was a difference maker. Deshaun Watson, when he came into the league last year in Houston, did some things that we had never seen, you know, amongst the quarterback in the NFL, Charlton.
Yeah.
And he continued that in his sophomore year.
Yeah. I've been impressed by what I've seen, Big C. The Chargers at the Ravens on Saturday. Lamar Jackson, his first NFL playoff start. Phillip Rivers, his 10th playoff start. Think about how Rivers came in the league with Drew Brees, Big C. We just saw, you know, Ellinger down there in Texas, the quarterback for the Texas Longhorns. He and Drew Brees went to Texas Westlake High School in Austin. And so you think about how things come full circle. Both quarterbacks are in the playoffs when you look at Rivers and also Brees. But Rivers has not won in the playoffs the way Brees has. Especially didn't have a Super Bowl. But I'm wondering if Jackson, if his defense plays well, they'll win. If his defense doesn't play well, then the Chargers have a chance. They have a chance anyway. And how the league can decide if they don't want to have too much color, you know, hiking the ball for the playoffs. You'll see plays, holding call, pass interference, etc. We know that they have to find a way to keep the mainstream happy, and to see a quarterback that's African American win, making the mainstream media look bad, and they already do because its numbers don't lie. But there might be some shenanigans in that game. If Baltimore can't win at home when it's going to be sub 40-degree temperature for a California team, I just wonder if that comes into play. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, a lot of things are going to come into play in this game. You think about the Chargers going out to Baltimore and playing on that West Coast clock, where they're going to be playing at 10 a.m. in the morning on their biological clock time, Charlton, because it's a 1 o'clock kickoff East Coast time, Charlton. And not only that, when you think about Phillip Rivers, Charlton, this will be his 10th start in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's the most starts of a quarterback, Charlton, in the playoffs to not have reached the Super Bowl.
Wow.
So the clock is ticking on Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
And you look at what Lamar Jackson has done with this Ravens organization, Charlton, getting them to the point of where they are right now. You really have to be excited about this young man's future. And people say, well, how long can this go on with him being the mobile quarterback that he is, Charlton, and moving the needle like he is? I mean, you think about how many mobile quarterbacks have been active in the NFL, Charlton, over the years and gotten their teams deep into the playoffs. Randall Cunningham, Michael Vick, Charlton, have done it. Roger Staubach won a Super Bowl, as well as Bob Greasy, being mobile quarterbacks. Joe Theismann, Charlton. No one has ever said anything about the white mobile quarterbacks in the NFL. How would their game translate? Joe Theismann came out of Canada, Charlton, and was that mobile quarterback with the Redskins. He changed up the dynamics of that offense. So mobile quarterbacks have always been a part of the NFL, Charlton, and they have made it to Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So people are saying, how long will this Jackson magic last, Charlton? Michael Vick made a career of it in the NFL. Randall Cunningham made a career of it, Charlton.
Steve Young.
They've been around. Bob Greasy, like I said, won a Super Bowl, as well as Joe Theismann Roger Staubach.
Yeah. Steve Young, too, won with the 49ers, throwing to Jerry Rice and Terrell Lawrence back in the day. And I just think that when I look at it, there's a player, he played at Georgia Southern back in the day. I want to say in the early 80s. Tracy Ham. Dynamic. He was Michael Vick before Michael Vick came on the scene, but they wouldn't give him a chance. He was Jackson before Jackson came on the scene. He went to Canada, had success up there. But Ham, there's a lot of players that come out of the South that will not get a look if they're black and talented because it makes mainstream look bad. That's not insincere. That's true. You can Google it, Big C. I also want to look at a couple other things. The Colts versus the Texans. The Colts are 9-1 in their last 10 games. Andrew Luck has 23 touchdown passes during that time. Came out of the great Stanford University on the West Coast. And this is for all the doctors that can do a great job of putting people back together again. Because, he didn't look too great coming into the season. He couldn't barely push the ball. But his injury would have maybe sidelined, maybe even ended the career of many athletes. But I'm impressed with the doctors that probably don't get enough attention. We saw the movie North Dallas 40 back in the day. But the medical breakthroughs that are making athletes more, it seems like they're better after they get injured. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, there's a lot of surgeries that have improved the strength of athletes, and mainly they do a lot of tendon transplants. And that's what takes these things a little longer to recuperate, like Andrew Luck did, taking a year and a half off from the NFL. The similar type injury that Cam Newton had, but Cam Newton was forced to come back early. But when you look at the process that Andrew Luck has gone through, Charlton, he's throwing touchdown passes to 13 different receivers this year.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a miraculous season that he's had. He's made his tight end, Eric Ebron, an all-pro.
Yeah.
13 touchdown receptions along with just the one player, Charlton, to culminate with 39 on the season. But Andrew Luck has just done a phenomenal job. And you think about it, Charlton, Andrew Luck, the Colts have made the playoffs 4 times in his career.
Yeah.
And in all 4 of those seasons, Charlton, they won at least 10 games.
Wow. I mean, I'm impressed with Andrew Luck. He's also a mobile quarterback. He's not fast, but he's quite mobile, Big C, but he's not given that name mobile as much as he should be. He was mobile at Stanford, and he's been mobile with the Colts, whether or not they want to use it.
Well, you think about it, Charlton, at the Combine, when he and the kid Cam Newton came out, his 40 time was just
better,
1/100th of a second slower than Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Everybody labeled Cam Newton as an athletic running quarterback.
Yeah.
Even though Andrew Luck's stats were identical.
Yeah, and some people think, depending on who has the start clock and who's in control of it, they thought that he was just as good. I mean, I'm impressed with players who can get it done. The Seattle Seahawks, they meet the Dallas Cowboys for the second time this season. They won the first match 24-13, but that's up in the great Northwest when I think the Cowboys ate a lot of fish. Big C, you can't feed Cowboys fish. Those good old boys, they like ribs, but the Seahawks fed them some fish, and it made it a little slippery when they was trying to grab the Seahawks running backs, Big C. Prescott, 3,885 yards, 22 touchdowns. Elliott, 1,434 yards, and he scored a lot of touchdowns this season. You have Wilson. I'm telling you, these players make a big difference. I want to get your thoughts on who makes the biggest difference when you look at Wilson, 3,448 yards, 35 touchdowns. and Carson has 1,151 yards and 9 touchdowns rushing. This is a game that has some offensive stars, but it may come down to the defense down in Big Dallas. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, Charlton, Dallas has one of the top-ranked defenses, one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL. They have a tremendous pass rush.
Yeah.
One of the big differences is in this game, Charlton, they're going to be playing in perfect conditions.
Yeah.
You know, they got Dallas early in the season. Both teams were struggling at that point, Charlton.
Yeah.
But both teams have caught their stride, made the playoffs, and, you know, won 10 games each, getting in 2 dynamic quarterbacks that are quite similar in what they do.
Yeah.
Both teams have an excellent receiver, Cooper in Dallas, Lockett in Seattle. We've seen what the running back stats are, Charlton. Both teams have 1,000-yard rushes.
Yeah.
Zeke Elliott took the week off last week, Charlton, to rest for the playoffs.
Yeah.
The Cowboys are going to have the fresh legs coming to this game. But Russell Wilson is so tough to defend, Charlton.
Yeah.
He is such a dynamic quarterback when it comes to buying time with his mobility. Also, his field generalmanship, Charlton.
Yep.
Being able to spot players in the right spot, Charlton. This is a game that's too close to call, but I like Seattle on the road.
Yeah, they look pretty good. I mean, they have the experience. If experience comes into play, obviously, I just like the competition. It's unlike what you have at college where you can choose what teams get into the playoffs. NFL, you got to earn your way. And speaking of earning your way, the Philadelphia Eagles, I still think about the gaming money that's coming through the state of Pennsylvania, and they were a tough team to bet on halfway through the season, especially when they had Carson Wentz. Okay? Carson Wentz might be the future for Philly, but he's not the future for them winning. Defending Super Bowl champs, the Eagles, are at the Bears on Saturday. Trubisky, 3,223 yards, passing, 24 touchdowns, but Nick Foles has 3 consecutive playoff wins and completed 25 consecutive passes in his last game. But Nick Foles is treated like a black quarterback. He wins, but they keep trying to get rid of him. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, he's like that girlfriend that's always been there for you, Charlton, but he's seeing a pretty girl walk by, you know, and he keeps going back and forth.
Yep.
You know, but Nick Foles, you know, when you think about him completing 25 consecutive passes, Charlton, it should have been 26. Nelson Aguilar dropped the pass that hit him in the hands at the goal line, Charlton.
Yeah.
And he just dropped it when he fell to the ground.
Yeah.
Nick Foles was a very accurate passer. When you look at what he did in that 3-game playoff run last year, Charlton, he completed close to 80% of his passes.
Yeah.
And knocked off the Patriots in the Super Bowl. He is a guy that they believe in Philadelphia because he had him at this point last year, Charlton. It's going to be a tough game for him with the rib injury in Chicago, Charlton.
Yeah.
Deafening cold weather that you can get in Chicago this time of the year.
Yeah.
And that Bears defense, Charlton, is very dynamic. They had the top 2 interceptors in the NFL, Charlton, you know, in their secondary.
Yeah.
So they're going to create some challenges for Philadelphia in this game. Philadelphia is going to need to establish a run game against the Bears, Charlton, to slow down this defense that they have.
Yeah, and that's a game I can't wait to see. And for everybody who's ever been the underdog in life, just keep in mind they've been underdogs for most of the year, but they found a guy who knows how to win. I still like the Bears in that contest. Big C, comeback players of the year in the NFL. J.J. Watt, 16 sacks after missing last season. I still like how he came to the forefront. You say sports and politics don't mix? No, he helped raise, I think, over $30 million for some relief from some of the families down in Houston when they had the floods last year. Deshaun Watson, 4,000 passing yards, 500 yards rushing, missing half of last season because of an injury. We just talked about that with Andrew Luck. Because of medicine, these players tend to get better after injury. That's so odd to me, but it seems to be the case. And then Luck, 39 touchdown passes, missing all of last season. Big C, medicine is real, and I hope that more people have access to it, especially with the Congress having the shutdown. But give me your thought of which one, in your eyes, I know you're a defensive guy, so you might be biased, but who would you give the top comeback player of the year, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you talk about medicine. There used to be a show back in the 70s called The $6 Million Man with Lee Majors.
Lee Majors,
you know, he can rebuild him better than what he once was.
Yeah.
So that technology has come to fruition from the $6 Million Man, and all these quarterbacks in the NFL make millions of dollars, Charlton.
Yep.
And when you talk about the biases towards Watts, he had a serious leg injury last year, Charlton, that forced him to miss the season. I think he was injured in the first or second game of the season. didn't have one sack last year, Charlton, and Houston didn't make the playoffs.
Wow.
But on the other side of the ball in Houston, Charlton, you got to look at Deshaun Watson. He came out blazing fire, Charlton, once he took over that starting job.
Yeah.
With setting rookie records, Charlton, and things that people have never seen in the NFL as far as throwing and passing, Charlton.
Yep.
And blew out his knee. Got off to a slow start this year, Charlton, and people were questioning what's wrong with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't play in the preseason, Charlton.
That matters.
But once the season has gotten going, Charlton, he became only the third quarterback in NFL history to pass for more than 4,000 yards and rush for 500 yards in a season.
Wow.
So you talk about a quarterback's impact on a franchise. And then we move to Andrew Luck, Charlton.
Yeah.
Who had, after coming back, Charlton, and could barely throw a football in training camp, Charlton, they nurtured him along. He had one of his perennial career seasons, Charlton, where he passed for 4,300 yards, 39 touchdowns, Charlton. And so when you talk about comeback player of the year, Charlton, it's going to come down to who likes who, realistically, because all of these players are deserving. I mean, when you look at what Deshaun Watson did, Charlton, only the third player in history to accomplish the feat that he did.
Yeah.
I think you really have to lean at Deshaun Watson in this scenario.
Well, I love your thoughts on how you just go up and down. It doesn't matter what I ask you. I could ask you about Hollywood, who's the best actor in the universe. I think it's Denzel. Some people might think it's Sam Jackson. Maybe it is Sam Jackson. Some people think Russell Crowe. No matter who you think it is, these guys can act. And I just appreciate seeing people at the top of the game. Tonight's NBA action is always fantastic. Toronto's at San Antonio. You have Denver at Sacramento. And Houston at the Golden State Warriors. A great game last night. Seeing George go back to L.A. and they got to win over the Lakers. LeBron James obviously didn't play. Neither did Rajon Rondo. But Big C, Kawhi Leonard returns to San Antonio for the first time since the trade with Toronto. You know how that Texas justice is not all that nice to people, Big C? Give me your thoughts on Leonard. He may not get a warm reception, obviously, but I think he made the right choice because he is the reason that San Antonio was as dominant, perhaps, or some people think it's a team game, but you got to have some great players. He's taking that same talent to Toronto. Maybe on the Riverwalk he should be careful. They might dunk him in the Riverwalk. Let me see your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, just to touch on all points that you hit on there, when you talked about those 3 games being played tonight, Charlton, all 6 of those teams are above 500 on their record at this point of the season.
Yeah.
In those 3 games that are being played tonight. So when you talk about Kawhi Leonard, Charlton, making the right decision, players have to be able to make the right decision for their career.
Yep.
You know, when we have all the media out there saying the guy is playing, he's not playing, and, you know, the injury can't be that serious, and, you know, he just turned his back on his teammates. This is someone's personal opinion.
Yeah.
Kawhi Leonard knew Kawhi Leonard's body.
Yep.
He knew what he needed to do to keep his career going, Charlton.
Yeah.
Not a season going. And when you think about the wear and tear on a professional athlete, everybody in the media from an analyst perspective, Charlton, generally knows what an athlete goes through. But it's the play-by-play guy, Charlton, that's drawing an opinion. The guy that's sitting in the broadcast studio that's making all these assessments on Kawhi Leonard, what he should be doing.
Yeah.
And you ask any of these guys, Charlton, that are making all these analyses on any professional athlete, would they walk around with a sprained ankle, Charlton? No, they wouldn't. They'd be sitting up with ice pack on their Charlton.
Ice pack on it, yeah.
Leg elevated. Athletes play with sprung ankles, Charlton, all the time.
Yep.
They put some tape on it and go out there and play.
They go out there and play.
So when Kawhi Leonard made that move, Charlton, the fans in San Antonio should appreciate what Kawhi Leonard did with that organization. All they have to do is look there, Charlton, in the rafters.
Yeah.
There's a banner saying NBA champion. Kawhi Leonard was the MVP of that series, Charlton.
Yeah.
He gave his heart and soul to that franchise, Charlton. He left the franchise. Many professional athletes, Charlton, leave franchises.
Yeah, they do.
Not of their own want, but the organization said it's time for you to go.
You got to go. Yeah.
You know, Kawhi Leonard was able to make that decision on his own that I want to go, Charlton.
Yeah.
And I praise him for that.
I praise him for that. Well, Boogie Cousins, the Kings are playing tonight. Boogie Cousins, he didn't leave Sacramento because he wanted to. You know, Vlade Divac said, you know, after they loved him and told him how much we appreciate you, they pulled some shenanigans at the All-Star game and left their star player not knowing if he had a place to go home to or not. So people got to see that side of the story also. The Houston Rockets versus the Golden State Warriors for the first time since they met last year in the playoffs. I remember that Houston actually was up 3-2, and then CP3, I guess he pulled a hamstring or something. Maybe he pulled a hamstring, but he has State Farm, so I don't know why they didn't come to his rescue, Big C. But this is a big game. It's a bigger game than a lot of people give credit for. I know it's not a playoff game yet, but it's about ego. It's about ego, who has the ego and who has the points tonight. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you got to look at the Golden State, Charlton. They really need this game. They've lost 4 games, at home by double-digit numbers this year, Charlton. Something that you would have never imagined over the past couple of years.
Las Vegas?
With Golden State.
You told me about Vegas, Big C.
Well, Vegas. That's not too far. It's about an hour flight.
Yeah, hour flight.
So when you think about James Harden right now, Charlton, the hottest player in the NBA.
Yeah.
One of the greatest scoring guards of all time. When you look at the numbers that he's putting up from that guard position, Charlton,
yeah.
Even though he always gets that extra step with the shot, no one's been able
Vegas.
to call it yet on it.
No.
but the Warriors are in desperation mode for this win, Charlton.
Yeah.
Both of these teams are hot. They're just separated by a couple. They're in the 2nd and 4th position in the West. Houston's 4th, Golden State is 2nd.
Yeah.
But this is a game, Charlton, when we talked about games didn't matter last year in 2018.
Yep.
Now we're in 2019.
Yep.
These games will start to make a difference, Charlton. And this is the same scenario they had last year. Chris Paul was out, Charlton.
Yeah.
And will he make a difference being out of the lineup in this game? I know they picked up Austin Rivers, Charlton, to play the point guard from the Clippers. How effective will he be against this Golden State lineup, and how effective will Golden State's bench be, Charlton?
Well, that's always important. It's always important that we follow what's going on in sports. On Big C Sports, you'll hear Big C. You see why we call him the Mystic. He just keeps it real. You can get it real when you download the sports app on Big C Sports on the #1 network in the United States of America, and do it every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock p.m. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I'm looking forward to that Golden State game tonight, Charlton. It's going to be very interesting in how that game turns out. We talked about you got 3 of the NBA's top 5 scorers in this game. Harden, who's leading the league in scoring, and trailed by Durant and Curry. Can Draymond Green keep his head on tight tonight, Charlton, and play defense and help his team to a victory?
Well, hopefully he can help his team to a victory, but you can also get victory every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, as we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. As we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.